Hey, all right. You're listening to the Dead Man's Tone podcast, a show broadcast from a trailer park deep in the heart of Meth County, Texas. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman. With me is SK, a life coach that can unfuck your life if you'll let him. Tammy G is under the weather tonight. She's been taking it from Michael Myers too much. I think she might be having a baby. I think she might actually be pregnant already. I don't know.
And because it's Michael Myers, it's not morning sickness, it's more of an evening sickness.
Yeah, and that's about right. I think you're right there, SK. So, if you want to help support her and her new family, what you could do is you could become a patron of the Dead Man's Home Patreon. She'll get part of it. A lot of it goes to me, but she'll get part of it. Don't worry. So just go to patreon.com/deadmanstone and show your support for Tammy G there and her new family. Yeah? Sound right?
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
She should be popping into the chat later.
Maybe.
Assuming that Michael Myers, lets her.
Yeah. Maybe we should ask about the result. If she can show us a photo of the test, because I'm curious. I would like to see. And I hope she's not trying to hit us up for any insurance coverage, because that doesn't come with this. Yeah. Anyway, we have a guest tonight, Mr. Wolf, the Wolf. Wait.
Hello.
Are you the Wolf, like the dude from Pulp Fiction? Are you that guy?
I wish. I kind of got to give that name to my brother. In high school, he was Wolf, or the Wolf. He was this big football and wrestler, and I was always Wolfie. I was always the little brother.
Okay.
Baby Wolf?
Baby Wolf, Wolfie. You know what? He's not here, so screw him. Call me Wolf. It's fine.
Okay.
Wolfie. The Wolf.
The Wolf. I'll call you the Wolf. Actually, no, I might call you Baby Wolf. I don't know. I don't know what to do here. Let me ask you.
So,
be honest here.
So what part of the country do you hail from?
Yeah.
That I'm an Oregonian by birth, but when I was pretty little, my brother and my dad and I moved to Indiana, and I spent most of my youth there. And I've been out in Washington State now for probably about 15 years.
Shit, I'm in Washington.
I got goosebumps just hearing that.
Yeah. Trouble.
I know, right?
What part, dude? I didn't know this.
Vancouver. The other Vancouver. Not...
Man, you're like, just like, oh, so close to Oregon. That must be freaky.
From my house, I can see the I-5 bridge. So, I could walk to Oregon if I wanted to.
Yeah, a friend of mine used to live right by there a few years ago as well. So I've been down that part. Western Washington, Seattle area is pretty weird, but it's really hard to match up. You can't keep up with Portland, man. Those guys.
Yeah.
They're in a league of their own.
The city's symbol is a man on a unicycle dressed as Vader belting out bagpipe music. I mean,
what?
That's one of the...
For real?
Yeah.
No way. What?
I forget, like Darth Piper, I think is what he goes by.
This is the Portland mascot?
Yeah.
What?
It is. He is one of them. He's in all the social media feeds. You usually find at least one or two gifs of him going around.
Okay. Well, I got to see this on Portland City mascot. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to find that. Oh, that's crazy.
I will say, one thing I love about Portland though is Powell's. That can't be beat. The Powell's City of Books bookstore. That's pretty fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're not all that. You've got a really pretty cool location there, because you're not that far from Astoria or Cannon Beach or Long Beach, or if you go upstream, you can get to the wine growing areas along the Columbia.
Well, and you said you're up in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so I mean you're right by the San Juan Islands, which
Oh,
I
I
have
love that.
family up there, and it's I took a friend there, and he immediately was looking into, okay, could I get a job around here and just not leave? It was
Right?
it was basically
Yeah.
dragging him
Mhm.
back to the boat.
It's a very unique, very special area, the San Juan Islands and the
Hmm.
Strait of Juan de Fuca and Whidbey Island, Port Townsend, all of that shit is just astonishing area. And there are 3 pods of orcas.
Yeah, I saw one of them when I went up to the San Juan Islands, and we had gone to this spot specifically to watch them. They didn't show because they're not on a freaking schedule or anything. But on the
Yeah,
way back,
something needs to be done about that.
they need to be punctual. They need
Mhm.
to clock in by what? What's
Yeah.
their excuse? Oh, we're going extinct. That's no excuse.
Yeah, no excuse at all. Come on, get with the program here. Which,
We
by the
ended up
way,
seeing.
I found the Vader thing. Welcome to Portland.
Yeah,
I'll be your guide.
that's a crazy.
Do you believe us now?
I believe you. I believe you. God, this is what's happening to. This is what's happening now to Americans.
So what did you see up there?
Well, so we didn't get a chance to see the orcas, so we're driving back, all my family and my friends all kind of hanging our heads. And then we noticed all these cars parked on the side of this road kind of going up the cliffs overlooking the ocean, so we pull off.
Yeah.
And they're down there are the orcas, and it's
Yeah.
a couple females and their babies, and the calves are like learning to hunt because you can see all the
Okay.
fish on the surface,
Yeah.
and you can see the mothers herding them in. And so we're standing there watching, and I remember my friend Devin is just like, but where's the male? And then like almost off as if on cue, boom, just bursting out of the water. It was like a sea monster. Just amazing to see.
Hey, you heard his call. He's like, "You're looking for me? I'm right here."
Yeah,
there's
they will hug the shorelines of the islands, chasing the salmon and they will get really close to the shore, and they can in those areas because it's so steep. So they can get within 20 feet of the shoreline because the drop off is so steep that they just hug right along there where this chasing the salmon up and down.
Oh no shit.
right. And you see
Yeah.
videos of some of them up on the beach to like grab seals and stuff.
Absolutely.
Dry land will not stop some of them. They'll just keep it coming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, Tammy's
Pretty
in the
amazing.
chat. Hey, just for Tammy right here. I think she's in the chat right now. So, by the way, hey, congratulations! I heard you're pregnant. Want to see some images though of that test? Yeah. Okay. Look at that. So
I'm gonna go with him and say it probably looks like William Shatner.
maybe.
Don't do it, Tammy.
All right, Mr. Wolf. Let me
Yes,
ask
sir.
you something. We know who you are,
All right.
but what do you do?
Well, I am a librarian down here in the other Vancouver, Washington,
Wait,
and I move a lot of books and I shelve a lot of books.
Oh,
That's
so
what
they still have libraries.
Bills?
That's good. That's good to know.
And a pretty good one, actually. I think we actually have a pretty good district down here. A lot of branches, and everybody seems happy.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was before that though. I did a lot of part-time jobs that kind of kept me running around the clock. But lately, since I've gotten this job, it's the other thing that I do in my free time is writing, and now this has allowed me to write a lot more. Because when I get home, I'm not brain dead from working 2 or 3 jobs all in a row. So.
Right. So you can also do your writing there at the job too. Is that right?
I have done that from time to time, usually on my lunch break.
Mm.
Most of my first drafts are done in a notebook,
Yeah.
and not because I'm trying to be a hipster or anything. It's just I don't have to power that up. I just take it out of my backpack, I click open my pen, and I go for it.
It's
also
good that you
keeps-
clarified that. Being so close to Portland, it's great that you clarified that. Just want to make sure. Are you a hipster?
I I don't believe I am. I have no facial hair. I keep clean shaven, so nothing out there.
You wear flannel.
I do have black. I do. My closet does have a healthy amount of flannel, but I retort. I'm a librarian. I'm supposed to have flannel and corduroy. It's our uniform.
Plus, you live in the Northwest, so it's not really. Seattle in Washington, we did grunge before it was fashion.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was just what we did.
It was so funny seeing some of the kids where I grew up in Indiana. A couple of them would tie like the plaid around their waist, and it was just funny seeing that out in like cornfields. Like it's winter time, and I'm wearing like shit covered Carhartt. So that was funny.
Okay. Now, are you particular? I mean, are you particular about your beer? You drink like certain craft beer?
No. I maybe this is another point in the column against being a hipster. I don't like IPAs.
Neither do I.
Whenever I drink them, I just always think I'm like in one of those bitter beer face commercials from the 90s. Yeah. So, I like beer. I like whiskey. But I mean...
All right, I don't even like beer. I think he passed the test. I don't think he's a hipster. I don't think he is. I think you're good.
Do you go shopping for artisanal anything?
No, but I must admit I have bought a few organic things, but only because the price was somehow cheaper.
Okay, avocado toast.
Yeah, avocado toast.
I've never had avocado toast. I've never had it, and I don't get the appeal.
Good.
Because like when you see people baking an egg inside an avocado, I'm like, warm avocado sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
Serve that cold, mashed up with lime and sour cream, and preferably a beer on the side.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes. That's fine. That's good. That's how you're supposed to eat it.
Yeah. I don't even like it then.
Well, you don't even like the avocado?
Green goop.
I'll take it.
Not really. It's just green goop.
Look, I'll take it. I don't need it. Guac is great.
But it's good.
But Pico de Gallo is so much better. Pico de Gallo is delicious.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Just some salsa.
Oh, sauce is great, man. But my wife makes... Oh, sorry.
Salsa. It is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I mean, we just harvested a bunch of tomatillos and made our own green salsa, and it's...
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Nothing beats it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Especially...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you make your own, it's always better. Like my wife makes them, too. It's great stuff.
Yeah, sure.
If you're a librarian, you probably can't afford to shop at, like, Whole Foods.
Who can, is my question.
Oh, come up here. You'll see.
Okay.
It's all the tech geeks.
Ugh.
They can afford it.
I mean, at what point does it just become a full-on dystopia like Zardos, where they're living in this like disinfected organic Whole Foods world while I'm down here like grunging around in the mud?
Well, it's absolutely heading that direction, and
yeah.
And the thing is that they're so disconnected from the rest of, civilized society. They don't even know how far they are away from it,
or how far back we're regressing. Like you don't understand. It's going back to the Wild West out here.
Man, she come to Texas.
Yeah,
that's where you.
With any luck,
I know, right?
I think I've been to pretty much every region of the U.S. I grew up in the Midwest. I'm from the Northwest. I've traveled through the Southwest, but I don't think I've ever passed through Texas, and I've never been to the New England area. I'd like to see both.
Well, if you pass through Texas because it takes for fucking ever. It's like the longest state to get through.
Jeez. It's hilarious how big it is. I mean, it's just comical. I remember, I think I've told this story, but I was driving from Seattle to Dallas, and I remember, I cut through the itty little shaved off a little corner of New Mexico, and then I was from Colorado, and then I was in Texas. And you're driving out there, and you see this big wrought iron sign over this dirt road that says Circle Jerk Ranch or whatever.
Probably that one.
and this dusty road goes off literally to the fucking horizon, and there is nothing out there that you can see from the highway. Not a thing except that road.
There might be a meth lab. A meth lab somewhere over there.
It is wherever the ranch house is, it's beyond the horizon.
Yeah. That's far, man. That's Texas for you. And
there's a lot of those places.
And it's like
like so many different parts of Texas. There's East Texas, and then the Panhandle, and then you have the central part, and they're all, from what I've seen and read, just wildly different types of places. It's like 4 states.
Mm-hmm. You get your desert, you get your forest, get your hilly area, you get your... you get it all. It just never ends. It's just... It takes for fucking ever. Okay, so how long have you been writing? I don't know if I asked that, but how long have you been writing?
Probably I've been... if you count like just sort of futzing around with it, with the beginning, probably since 8th grade. I had probably a similar story from a lot of other writers you've had on here, but I had a very inspiring teacher who was actually, I lived in this small town in Indiana, so everybody kind of knew everybody. And in elementary school, my friends and I were just pains in the ass for all the teachers.
Oh, of course.
And the principal did not really, hide the fact that he was usually in almost a constant state of irritation with us. Mm-hmm. And when we all went to middle school, which was just up the street, we found out that our English teacher was his wife. And my friends and I ended up in her class. And my best friend and I just kind of side-eye like, oh, we might be in trouble. She turned out to be one of the best teachers I've ever had. And no comment.
I bet she was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you,
hot English teachers, man.
Don't be ashamed of that, man, because hot teachers are the most motivating teachers there are.
Yep.
I stay focused. I have to give that designation to my 5th grade homeroom teacher.
Ah, look at that.
But she would, I was a pretty good student, humble brag, but like when I would finish work early, she would usually let me, like 20 minutes early or so, she would usually just let me go off to the library, which was just down the hall, and write. And this was, I was saving my early works on floppy disk, if that dates me at all. And yeah. And I remember the first thing I tried to write, I didn't finish it, was about like a prison bus in southern Indiana that gets attacked by a monster. I knew nothing about the penal system. I knew nothing about how it was supposed to work. I'd only been to Southern Indiana like twice. And I'm sure if I could dig up that piece of crap, it would show through that I knew nothing. But I liked writing, the attack scenes, and I would always sort of type and make sure no one was looking over my shoulder when I type out the bad words and stuff like that.
Well, wait. At that level, what sort of bad words were you using?
Darn.
Darn.
Probably fuck were probably the common.
Oh, you said middle school, right? Middle school?
Middle school, yeah.
Middle school,
well, and I knew enough from writing prisoners and prison guards. They probably don't talk in lily speeches. And I'd already seen and read a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't have. But yeah, I'd been exposed to some stuff like that for a long time. So it was, and my brother and I kind of worked together on comics occasionally when we were kids. He would always draw. He was a very good artist, and I would help him come up with ideas. And when he would write like a character saying "damn" and like slamming the table, we would print out stuff and cut out the word bubbles. But for that, he would draw it in so no one would see him typing it.
That's cool. So you were really worried about getting caught. Look at that. Look at that. But
I did.
But so you started off like that, and you worked on it, and you have some stories out there, right? I mean, you have one coming out in Dead Man's Toe Monster Party. You have a few others, right? Sorry?
Yeah, I have a story called When Crows Come Calling, coming out in an anthology called Rehaunt from Pole to Pole Publishing. And that's a collection of reprinted ghost stories. I've probably gotten more mileage out of that ghost story than anything else. It's been published the most, and I've gotten the most money for it and stuff. And then I just had something come out on an e-zine called Ripples in Space. The story's called Caretaker. And that was one that have you ever written something where you're just too bullheaded to accept a rejection letter from it? Because I think it's a really good story. I'm biased.
Yeah.
But I kept rejection.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just keep throwing it at other people.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And then in January, I have something coming out in the 2020 January edition of Bards and Sages Quarterly.
Oh, all right.
And so those are all upcoming. And then there are some other things that have already been published. A story called Helen Got the Day Shift that is in a collection called Inwood, Indiana.
Okay, what was the title of that again? You said Hell Got the Day Shift?
Oh, the story is called Helen Got the Day Shift.
Oh, okay. Helen. Not Hell.
Is her last name back?
Boy, I wish. No, it's let me see. I think it was Myers, Helen Myers. Speaking of your co-host.
Well, good, because now I suddenly have a new character named Helen Back. Bach.
Take yours. That's all yours.
So
and then
go ahead.
So there's something going to be coming out sometime next year. That's going to be my first collection of stories that a Mason J. Press is going to be publishing. And it's a collection of stories sort of set in a bygone era. And it's about these kind of two idiots who keep getting into different situation after different situation. And that's been a lot of fun to write, to kind of write them into a corner and then see how they get out of it.
Oh, that stuff is always fun. Is it kind of like the Trailer Park Boys? I know that was like three idiots, but
there are some elements of that. I mean, I'd be lying if I said, "Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?" wasn't an inspiration for it.
That's some weird ass shit, man. Yeah, and it's very strange how well it works.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Coen brothers have a couple swings and misses, but what I love most about them is they admit it, usually, when they have a real swing and a miss. Same with Stephen King. When he screws up, he's like, yeah, I kind of biffed on that one.
Did he say that about The Cell? Is that the name? That's the name of the movie, right? The Cell? God.
Yeah, I did not care for Cell. That was not my bag.
No, it didn't make any sense.
What was the other damn musical that they did like last year? The Coen brothers.
Oh, Inside. Oh, Hail Caesar.
No. It was a Legend or Jesus. I can't remember. All right, hold on. I'll look it up.
I don't even know. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
swings and misses happen.
Yeah, and I've had other stories. I have a box of notebooks that have stories in them that will probably never see any light of day, just because they don't work, and I don't like to edit. That's what writing teacher called it when you would be typing something out usually and type. Oh, that's not good. Let me hit backspace and go back and try it again. Type. No, let's. And it's almost like one step forward, two steps back, which is another reason why I encourage a lot of people.
Yes.
If you want to write, grab a piece of notebook paper, because with that, it's kind of like
yeah, I totally agree with it. If you're on the computer, you spend more time editing than writing.
Yeah,
and it interrupts your flow.
I love editing. It's an important part of the process, but if you don't get any damn words on the paper, what are you going to edit?
That's right.
Exactly.
And you have a point about that. Yeah. I mean, hell, you try to work on just one sentence. It's like, how do I get it perfect? How do I get it perfect? When you're just writing it on a notebook, it doesn't matter.
I love it in movies whenever it shows a writer and they're like finishing up something and they'll go the end, and like they'll always like step away with their hands off the keyboard. And I'm like, okay, where's the next part of like 6 months of editing and talking to the editor, and going back? I blame society for recursive editing. They think every time you dump something out onto a paper, it should be golden right out the gate.
Right?
Most of us can't. I'm sorry, most of you can't do that.
Oh, okay, SK. SK's over here writing his final draft in one take.
I don't think I've never had that happen. If it felt like that happened, I would look around and wondering if I'm getting punked or something.
Yeah, right. It's
really it pisses me off too. By the way, when I see it in TV and movies, where they giving the impression that writers sit down, they start on page 1. And they just type until they get to the end, and then that's it. They're done. They send it off to the publisher, who swoons over it.
Right.
Yeah. God.
So what are your influences?
I mean, I think if to start with just listing like my favorite authors, I think I'd have to say like Larry Brown.
Yeah.
Is author that if I could ever emulate them, I would think, okay, yeah, mission accomplished. If I reach any level of that, I mean, he's written so many great stories. That Joe and the Rabbit Factory, and his final novel. I mean, shit, he didn't even finish his final novel. He died before A Miracle of Catfish could get officially done. He had like the second draft of it, I think, and it's still really good. So, I mean, that says a lot. I also think, anyone our age, I think, would be a freaking liar if they said that Stephen King hasn't influenced them a little bit. I mean, the guy's everything. But also, we were talking about this before we came on, but Joe Lansdale is just an author who, it's pure insanity on the page, and it's wonderful to read.
Yes.
And my favorite story about him is one of my favorite book series as a kid, and I read constantly, was the Bruce Coville Book of Monsters, Book of Spine Tinglers, stuff like that. Do you all remember that series?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Well, what was great, my best friend and I mean, these books got passed around our classroom like cigarettes in prison.
This was kind of like the Goosebumps stuff. Oh, is that
sort of? They were collections of short stories from all these different authors.
Okay, yeah, I've never seen the stuff. Like, don't go to the principal's office, shit like that. It's student exchange.
And
okay, yeah.
Coville Book of Nightmares had this story in it called The Fat Man, and it was me and my best friend's favorite story. And years later, I asked for a Joe R. Lansdale book for Christmas, Bumper Crop.
Okay.
And it's Christmas morning, the gifts are open, I'm sitting there reading, and I'm having a great time. And all of a sudden, turn to the next story in this collection, The Fat Man. The Fat Man? What? And I start to read the lines, and I realize, holy shit, I was a fan of Joe Lansdale before I knew this was Joe Lansdale. And
isn't that great?
And it is. It's just. It felt so great to read this story again, and I'm like, yes, this is just as good as I remember it being. Just strange and twisted, and still somehow full of wonder. He's great at that.
I mean, he has a way to making that stuff work. He could take a bizarre, strange situation, but yet make it make sense.
Yeah, I mean, give me a story about a bunch of people in a drive-in theater. He will write that story. Give me a story about, Elvis fighting a mummy with a cancer on his face.
Right?
Who hasn't tried to write that story?
It's the old standby. Cancerous
Yeah.
dick fights mummy.
I mean, it's kind of a tired trope, but you gotta, he was able to pull it off.
He was.
So to speak.
He
No, I mean I don't want to brown nose or toot your own horn too much or whatever. Or toot your own horn, but brown nose. You could have done that, like in your story that's in Monster Party. I don't want to give it away, right? But you pretty much.
I'm thank you.
Yeah, like even if I were to give out what the monster is, I'd be like, it's a what? Like honestly, if I knew what it was going into it, I'd be like, there's no way this could work. But you guide the reader to it. Like I had no idea what was coming, and then
it is. You hear that story from writers where you're like, it's all about asking what if,
yeah,
and that's how it all started. It was just you look up and you go, huh.
What if? Yeah, and just sort of guide them through showing with your prose of what's happening here. Okay, this is happening. Okay, and then one step after another, you get them to believe, at least accept that the strange thing is happening. I know it's being very vague right now. Let's just say it was like a monster, some crazy like a suitcase or briefcase monster. It's like if someone were going to read a book about a briefcase monster, it's like it's a what?
What?
Yeah, and you want to skirt that with okay, so let's say a briefcase monster.
Yeah,
you'd want to go, okay, the way I would approach something like that would go, what would people expect it to be?
Yeah,
and then try it again, because I originally finished that story and it just kind of. Can we say the name of the story? Or
yeah, you can say the name of it.
Yeah, it's called Take One, Leave Some, and it started off with just that what if angle, and I wrote it and I edited it because it's not like a movie where I stepped back and went, done, like we were talking about, but and edit it and then put it aside to rest for a while, and while it was resting there, I'm like, I don't think. Who would take this? It's a little odd, and
Bizarro world would take it. They like that stuff.
You shop it around, and then you hear back from guys like you, and all of a sudden you're doing a happy dance. Mm-hmm. It's pretty great. I mean, I have a lot of other friends who are writers, and some get published, and some are still working at it, and they're working like dogs, and I'm behind them 100%. And it's just when you finally find a home for something, it nothing else beats it. I don't write fantasy very often, but kind of in a weird fluke, I wrote these 2 fantasy stories almost in tandem, and one was from an image prompt, and the other one I just wanted to write. I'd had the idea for a while, and I was pretty happy with both, but I knew this one that got this one called the Dead Song, and then the other one, The Enemy, got. I expected The Enemy to get snapped up right away. I thought it was a good story with an interesting message and good metaphors, and I kind of, looking at the Dead Song, I'm like, we'll try and find you a home, buddy, but I'm not sure. And I shopped The Enemy around for months just trying to find this place for this.
Oh, no
and it
shit.
finally got picked up. Yeah, but for that January issue of Bards and Sages. But the Dead Song got snapped up right away by Silverblade magazine. And, it's just that idea of you never know who's going to like something until you put it out there. And then Dead Man's Tone likes your weird idea, and it makes you feel pretty good.
Right.
Well, it's in a lot of ways. There's a lot of parallels to, like, I don't want to say dating so much as trying to pick up someone for a one-night stand. because these relationships, when you're like in an anthology or something, it's a quickie, right?
That's what it is. When you get accepted at Dead Man's Home, it's a quickie. That's what it is.
Right, but you still have to put a lot of effort into trying to find somebody who will say yes.
And I mean, I think, I don't know. I'm tripping over myself here, but I hear a lot of people lamenting, is print dead and stuff, and I don't think it is. I mean, I work a library hired me because they could afford to hire me, so I don't think print is dead. If anything, all these different, especially the e-zines now. I mean, I almost feel, none of us were alive back then. I'm assuming. But it's almost like that era you read about in like the 20s and the 30s when there were all these different magazines out there, just one after another, and they were all publishing really crazy, cool stuff because they were all taking chances. And I think we're kind of back at that point. Where
magazines were a very successful and lucrative proposition, even up into the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You ever read that book, Paperbacks from Hell, which chronicles all the different, like, that horror boom from the 60s to the mid-90s?
I think Church of Failure told me about that.
Church talks about that.
Yeah. He this guy, Church of Failure, does a live stream called with the Gospel of Comics. Yeah, he talks about. Well, actually, he did a few episodes talking about what the pre-code era comics, the horror comics, which turned into horror magazines because they had to get around the code, the comic code.
Yeah,
that's interesting stuff. But SK, you're right. I mean, magazines were lucrative. E-zines, though, not so much. It's. I mean, if you can get the sponsors.
That e-zines have always been, nobody's really found a way to make those things work to the same extent that magazines ever did. I mean, seriously, like Time Magazine, Newsweek, these people were living like big, Arab shahs, or these people, they had these expense accounts that were just unlimited pretty much, and they'd run off and go here and go there and stay in these hotels and party till all hours, drinking all kinds of shit, and then all of a sudden it comes crashing down. But for a long time, huge money in magazines.
Yeah, and it's like easy. But it's not so much.
There's been no way to get back to that or anything approaching it in the digital age.
And I think the difference there is, or one of the differences is that, well, there's a lot of e-zines out there. It's just, how do you find them? Where do you find them at? And because like the magazine, there was a stand. It was like there, people see it.
Well, and every magazine was publishing short stories like Time and Life, but also Playboy. And then you had, Weird Tales and Amazing Stories. They were all publishing creative work. They all had a section for fiction.
I mean, Reader's Digest was all short stories.
Yeah.
Reader's Digest. That's, man, all right, that brings me back. Is that thing still around?
I have no idea.
Yeah. We stock it at our library, so yeah,
really?
It's still around.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Libraries may be the only people under 90 who still buy it.
It is funny to see because part of the magazine section for each library is very different. So you'll go to my branch and you can kind of see what the general populace is reading here, but then you'll go to the downtown library, a completely different collection of magazines.
What about highlights? Is highlights still a thing?
Oh man,
I still see highlights, yeah, and then
You
there's
do?
Highlights Junior, Ranger Rick. I mean, it's all there.
No, wait. There's not still. No. You're talking about back
Oh,
copies
there's
of Ranger
Ranger
Rick.
Rick.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
All right. Well, maybe
there are
just help.
copies of Ranger Rick.
Okay. All right. So in your
Oh,
story,
see me, yep.
in your story, you have a very bizarre monster that, if you were to put in a movie, would be probably like a B movie monster. Now, let me just say though, the way you wrote your story, it doesn't like if you were to turn that into a film, it wouldn't really be a B movie monster. It'd be like it. I don't know. Like you framed it in a way that makes it seem like it'd be a more mainstream or easy to consume. But on the subject of B movie monsters, do you have a favorite?
For it's funny. My family makes a point of watching really crappy movies every Thanksgiving, so we go through a lot of C and B grade movies. I would say maybe for B grade. Does B grade necessarily mean like a bad movie?
It doesn't have to be bad.
No, not at all.
Sometimes
Yeah,
it's so
'cause I
bad
would
it's
say
good, but you know.
Probably my two favorite like monsters from like lesser known movies or kind of smaller budget things are probably the Graboids from Tremors, and
Yeah.
and then there was this movie made, I don't remember the exact era, but it was that time when Disney didn't give a crap if they scared you. They would make scary movies. And they made a movie called Dragon Slayer. Have you ever seen that?
Wait a second.
Yes. That was. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. I'm gonna figure this out.
Alrighty.
Dragon Slayer.
Yeah.
God, who was the Dragon Slayer? This
Peter
Peter
McNichol?
And John Gill.
okay.
And
Ralph Richardson.
that-
No, it was Ralph Richardson.
oh, okay. Whoops. But that was probably my favorite movie Dragon because it's
It
just
was a
cool to
good
watch that.
dragon. It was a good
Yeah.
dragon. I remember that.
Well, and what's cool about that is, we need an 80-foot dragon. Well, this was the 80s, so they just built an 80-foot dragon, and and it's just that was the
Right.
first thing I remember seeing where like it's crawling on its wings like a bat, and when it when it kills its like babies, its hatchlings. And this is what you get with practical effects. There's just this scowl of rage on its face. And then it just comes charging after him like, yo, you fucked up. And that is just, it's a wonderful movie creature. I think Vermithrax is the dragon's name. And it's such a cool name for a dragon.
That's an awesome name. But that's the reason why it works is because it was practical effects, man. The thing was actually there. Of course it's fake, but it's actually there and it looks real.
Well, and same with the Graboids. Like when those things come punching through the floor, I mean, you feel it shudder as it comes, up to devour you.
Right? I never really thought Tremors was a bad movie. I never thought any of those were really that bad.
I just rewatched Tremors like last month or so. It holds up pretty good.
Right?
What I think is,
I mean, the worm is pretty awful when you get up close to it, but the movie's good.
Take away the monsters from that movie, and you still have a movie I would watch because these characters are interesting.
Yeah,
it's basically
absolutely.
North exposure in the Southwest.
Right? But yeah.
So I guess a B movie monster, if those don't quite count.
Well, the dragon's pretty cool. The Graboids are pretty cool too.
Yeah.
What about B movie monster?
Maybe the Chud. The Chuds are.
Oh my God.
That's a good one.
Those are some good ones. Those are some good. Once again, it's a practical effect. There's slime dripping off them, and they're glowing eyes. Like it's an impressive effect. I would say maybe the Chud, or maybe the killer baby from It's Alive. the Larry Cohen.
Okay.
That's a freaky looking creature.
Yeah, man, like those little things are fucking crazy. In the Chud. Oh god, that was a good reference right there.
Oh,
You know what? You know what really freaked my girls out when they were, you know, middle grade school was Dark Crystal.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
yeah. That's a dark movie. I mean, how many of our like classic children's movies were probably just fueled by a mountain of cocaine? Like some of the
Yeah, a little more LSD than cocaine on that one, I have to say.
Probably.
well, like Dark Crystal, Labyrinth. Going back to
Oh
Dragons.
my fucking god, Labyrinth.
all, like,
It's been okay. All right.
Legend.
Yeah.
oh my God, Legend. That is maybe my favorite movie devil. Tim Curry as Darkness. That is my favorite movie devil.
Oh yeah.
And who directed that movie?
Ridley frickin' Scott.
Yep.
Mhm. Oh man, good stuff.
Oh, and Rob Bottin did the effects for that. And there's an unsung hero of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror films. He's created. You go and you look at his filmography. He's created some of the most memorable movie monsters right there with Rick Baker.
Oh damn.
One of the problems, I mean, the digital revolution has done some amazing things for visual effects, but there are some things that you just need practical effects for. That they just do not look right in digital.
Well, like think back to going back to Tremors. You remember that part where it slams through the wall and they kill
Yes.
the first one by accident, and
Yes.
there's that like almost like handheld footage as Earl and Rhonda are coming up to take a look at its jaws, and there's the slime and you see like the beak and it's got cracks in it
Yes.
and dust, and it looks like something that's been slamming through desert earth. You can't get that with digital.
You
I
can't.
love it. I love digital effects, but you can't get it with that.
And the cool thing is they can actually touch it and feel it and mess around with this prop and make it look real, you know? But digital, it's
You could allow it to improvise. Actors improvise, and if they have a real prop, they can.
yeah. I mean, now when they
Well,
use a lot of digital, they have to like make sure they handle it in a certain way, do it just right, so they can After Effects it or whatever the hell they do now. But that's just
One of the things that really irritates me about digital effects is you'd think that one of the simplest digital effects that could possibly be created is a jet aircraft, because there's no external moving parts. It's just moving through the air. And yet time after time, it looks like shit the way it flies.
they always look like video games. Every time I see a jet or a helicopter in a movie, and it's digital, it's like it looks like a fucking Command and Conquer cutscene. It's like I've seen this before, man. Come on.
Well, and it doesn't move right.
No.
Like, go back and compare it to, I mean, even not even a big special effects movie, but like The Fugitive. The part where like the helicopter comes down and like Tommy Lee Jones leaps out of it to go after Kimball. It would look so weird if he was doing that against the green screen. It just wouldn't.
It would not look right at all.
Absolutely. And digital car crashes are just boring.
Why even have
Digital
that?
blood in horror films? Digital blood is the worst.
Oh god,
Yeah.
digital blood too.
Yeah, and they always like to splash it on the camera lens.
Well, they do that to hide how bad it is. They just cover the lens. You can't see anything, guys.
New Rambo movie has all like digital blood, and for the big finale, I mean, for many reasons, it felt like a stupid video game. But the digital blood didn't help.
See, I haven't seen the new Rambo movie. Is it? I heard it was good. I also heard it was bad. I don't know. I have no idea.
You could have slapped another title on this and called it something else. I mean, at least Rambo 4, it felt like a Rambo movie. I actually love the first one, First Blood. And
First Blood is a really good movie.
It is.
And you got that guy, that fucking stunt guy leaping for the helicopter. that's a guy
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
Who probably got banged up as he landed. You know?
Right.
Absolutely.
But,
And it wasn't the first take either.
Though, of like somehow the book is almost always better because like that whole book, you actually don't get a lot from Rambo's point of view other than I'm going here, I'm doing this. It's almost like he's a machine. But then the sheriff who gives him a hard time in the book, you see the kind of nagging insecurities he has, and like you find out he served in Korea and got the Silver Star, and then like from his point of view, this Vietnam vet who has like a Congressional Medal of Honor, this young punk, it's like, what is he doing here? You know, it's very like history match when you read the book. I like the book.
See, I haven't read the book, watched the movie. The movie's pretty great.
Yeah, it's a pretty good adaptation too. When you go back and you read the book, you'll see that. It's a very, very good adaptation.
I like how Rambo actually seemed more believable. Like, he wasn't like this. I mean, they beefed him up in the second one. They're like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Take some roids, man. But no, he was more believable and he's dealing with something.
Remember the finale of the fourth film were just people dying in waves. But then you go back and you watch the first one, that movie has one casualty in it. And it's an accident.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it wasn't about the
strange.
death toll. Rambo didn't become
he was
until
just,
the second one.
What's cool about the first one is he was just trying to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted something to eat.
Yeah.
It all started. He's in a diner.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even simpler than that. No, Rambo 1, it starts off, he's just walking through town. He never even made it to the diner before he gets picked up by the cops and harassed.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and David Morrell, I remember in an interview, he was talking about like the author of the book came up with the idea because he was a college professor and he had some veterans from Vietnam in his class, you know, and just kind of listening to them in his one-on-one conferences with them, it gave him this completely different view of this other world that they lived in for a while, and then they have to come back.
Oh, cool.
Terrific story.
Yes, sir.
So, hey, Mr. Wolf, do you have you had a paranormal experience?
I actually have had one. I'm not. I guess I'm more of a Scully than a Mulder.
So you're a hot redhead, is that what you're saying?
She was my first celebrity crush.
You wear pumps?
I have been with X-Files from season 1. I was in like daycare or home sick, and it was a rerun of the New Jersey Devil episode.
Mm-hmm.
And even there, I'm like, I like redheaded lady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but,
better on TV, you got to say, than in real life.
Oh, really?
You're talking about the New Jersey Devil, right?
Oh, you're just talking about
Redheads.
redheads. Okay, I would take that chance.
But no,
I'd throw that fire.
I have a friend who in high school I would usually stay at his house because I lived up in the mountains, and when it got during high school when I lived out here in Vancouver area, when it would get icy, I would usually stay at his house. And he would tell me occasionally that like weird stuff tended to happen at his house.
Okay.
Like one time he was home alone, he thought, and then he hears his sister crying in the pantry, and you know, he kind of wants to leave her alone, like let her work it out. But he's the older brother, so he goes to open the pantry and talk to her. Right. She's not there. She wasn't home. So he tells me this story and other ones like it, and I'm like, I'm not believing this. Because I sleep downstairs in this house. I had never experienced anything. I had never seen or heard or anything. Right. And he tells me that one that happens all the time at this house, with these big French doors looking out on the backyard, would open and slam shut at odd hours of the morning. Again, I didn't believe it. Well, one thing I did usually would go around and make sure all the doors were locked because I'm sleeping on the ground floor. If somebody does come in, I mean, they're going to get me first. And so I'm going around and I'm going into the living room and I rattle the French doors, make sure they're locked.
Right.
And I turn to go back to the couch. I feel cold wind on me. I can hear leaves blowing inside. And there were leaves on the floor afterwards. And bam! Just loud ass slam. And like the glass is rattled. I spin around. The door is shut. But like I said, I can see leaves on the ground. So it really happened. And my friend, he meets me halfway down the stairs, and both he and his sister, like to this day, will tell you I was just white as a sheet. And the few times I've stayed over there now, I don't sleep down. It was a pretty surreal experience, but that's the only paranormal experience I've had, as far as I know.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Never happened again like that?
It's never happened to me, but according to his parents, I mean, it's not just my friend telling me this story to like jerk me around. Like, I've heard his parents talk about it, and apparently it still happens from time to time, and they can't find a reason for it, so they just are like, well, I guess that's what's happening.
So in this house, they made it seem like it was a normal occurrence for what the sound that they heard. Is it right?
Well,
not just a sound.
Yeah,
right?
well, when these things would close or slam shut, he said that they could like feel it shake, and I can attest to that. I could feel it. Yeah.
Okay. So
I guess maybe.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, when it shut on you, and that, like, did you feel like how did it feel, and what did you feel?
The honest answer to that is I felt nothing. It was almost like when if you're riding your bike and you see a car about to hit you or something like that. There's just no time to think about anything. And that's kind of how I felt. I just sort of was hollowed out, and I had to restart my brain afterward going, okay, that just happened. And then immediately, once I was back in working order, turn around and rush upstairs.
Right. Now, was this like a windy night?
As far as I recall, it wasn't. It was winter. That's why I was staying there.
Okay.
But it was just sort of a calm, cold, still winter's night. Frost on the panes and all that. And he's got this big backyard that looks out over this wooded area. So if it had been, somebody screwing with me or something, the porch lights were on. There was nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. I would have seen anybody.
Right.
And I did not. It was just the doors.
I see.
Yeah. And so I guess my first feeling for it was just emptiness. Just like brain had to get rebooted.
Wow.
This emptiness,
which I think is why I know I would die in a horror movie. Like, I would be that guy who reads this. Like, there's just going back to B movies. There's this great little B movie vampire werewolf flick called Bad Moon.
Yeah.
And there's this one character who's not likable at all, so you're not crying when he gets devoured. But when he first sees the werewolf, his reaction, I think, is the most, realistic you would have to something like that, which is just, what? And then,
He's just dead.
Oh, yeah.
Dang it.
That might be my favorite movie, Werewolf, because it's just, there's no humanity in it. Like, there's no human being left in the face.
So in a horror film, you'd be the guy who, like, is the first one to check out something. I'd be like,
God, no. I wouldn't check out shit.
Oh.
I mean, I go back to the story I told you. When the doors closed, I eventually, once I found my legs again, I ran away.
Oh.
I think if I died in a horror film, I mean, I'd need glasses to see long distance. So I think I'd get that classic, I can't find my glasses. And then there's that, like, blurry POV shot of something. That's how I go out.
Well, you're crawling around on your hands and your knees, and you grab the foot of the monster, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then Bigfoot lifts me up and splits me in two.
Well,
and then that character's out of the movie.
well, you have it better
I
than
get my
me.
paycheck. I go home.
I think you would last longer than I would, definitely. Because see, I would be the guy who would check it out and then die. That's it.
Well,
I wouldn't believe either.
Okay,
Like,
so pretty much, you're Dallas from Alien. You're going
Yeah.
down into the vent, and you're around. I would be Lambert near the end, like just frozen while the tail wrapped around me, and I know I am so screwed.
that's a good point. I like that.
Yeah, that's actually I think
none
that
of
was
us-
the first scary movie I can remember seeing was Alien.
Yeah,
I
that was
think
good. Good film. Good film. But none of us here would be Ripley. I don't even think
Oh.
Tammy would be Ripley. Tammy. You're not
Hey,
Tammy. Kitty be Ripley?
What if it was Michael Myers as Ripley and he fights the alien?
Oh,
with
Michael
all-
Myers would beat the fucking shit out of Xenomorph. Does he have his
so.
knife with him? He has his knife. He would
You give that man a knife, he'll go far.
look. Xenomorph versus Michael Myers. Man, Xenomorph is faster, can move more, but like Michael Myers is gonna fucking stab that thing. Right?
I do love the first Halloween movie. That might be one of my favorite slasher movies. That and the 81 My Bloody Valentine.
Oh, yeah.
They're just so enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that stuff. I like that stuff a lot. What is your favorite horror film?
I think, other people have probably said this too, but probably John Carpenter's The Thing. That just,
Mhm.
I still jump at some scenes, and I've seen that movie way too many times.
I'm talking about practical effects, man. that one.
Well,
right.
and the guy, that's Rob Bottin, the guy who did Darkness and Legend and did The Mutants and Total Recall and all that.
Oh, really?
He's best. Yeah.
Man.
And Rob Bottin could always do those effects. Well, he can. He's still alive and working, but like he does those effects that make you kind of sick just to look at him. Like you kind of just feel uneasy looking at his creatures. He also did the werewolves in The Howling, which are just these cruel creatures in that movie. Like there's a real menace to them in that movie. But yeah, I would probably say John Carpenter's The Thing. That's that and
man,
Alien.
that movie gets mentioned a lot. I gotta say.
And I think there's a reason for it.
Mhm.
It's just, it's maybe just because it's one of the few remakes that's good. There's so few of them. Maybe that's just why it's sort of this crown jewel amongst horror fans.
I think you have a point there.
Maybe so.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of other remakes that were, if anything, just tolerable. And, not a lot are coming to mind. And ask any of my friends, I'm basically a walking IMDb, and nothing comes to mind, really.
Man. But with the thing, it seems like an easy go-to. As far as horror, it has everything you need. You're isolated. You're out there in Antarctica.
Well, yeah. Well, let me walk over to my horror DVD section here because I got it divided. Let's see. What do I got? Shit. I can just go down the list.
What about Rob Zombie's Halloween?
Don't speak its name in front of me, sir. That movie, oh boy. Okay,
better
it's an
than the original. Better.
I almost wouldn't say it counts as a horror film, really. But y'all ever seen Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions?
Ooh, sounds familiar.
It's based off of his short story, or novella called, I think it's called The Last Illusion. It's in his collection called Cabal, which had that story that got turned into Nightbreed. I love Cabal. That's a great novel. But The Lord of Illusions has this idea. The movie starts out with this idea that, and they explain it really well. It's easy to digest. The idea that there are illusionists
Yeah.
and there are magicians.
Okay.
An illusionist makes it look using like the angle of his hand makes it look like a card disappears. A magician really sends it somewhere. And magicians might be working with something dark and disturbing. And so it's a story about a detective who's trying to track down this illusionist who is being pursued by something. And it's almost classic Barker. Like there's a heavy sexual undertone through it. It's very uncomfortable in parts. And I'll tell you, the person who ends up stealing the show is, you ever watch Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge Seinfeld guy.
Remember George's boss, Mr. Kruger?
Yeah, Mr.
The
Kruger.
actor. That actor, Daniel von Bargen. He's passed on now, but he's the bad guy in this, and he plays kind of a.
Okay.
Yeah. He plays kind of a Charlie Manson type, who has like this cult that follows him because he's not an illusionist.
This is hard for me
He's
to
straight up.
Oh, I'm trying to follow this because all I know of this guy is from Seinfeld, so I'm trying to imagine.
It is so weird. He does so many things in the opening scene that are just straight up evil that it's really hard to watch.
Okay.
Because he still has that deep voice, and you're used to hearing it, say funny things.
Right.
But he's just disturbing in this movie. So if I was going to pick like a left field dark horse candidate, I might put that one up there, just because it's unusual and it's part horror flick, but also detective movie.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting movie.
Okay.
Yeah. It's definitely worth checking out. At least once, just to see if you like
I
it.
have to check that stuff out, man. I have to check it out.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. I'm still thinking about any other remakes. I really can't think of anything other than God. Yeah, I'm drawing blanks, dude.
Yeah.
Like
I know it's sad.
Oh, what did you see the? I don't know if you call it a remake or a soft reboot or whatever. The new Chucky thing. What was that?
I did see that. That was odd.
Horrible. Horrible.
What I hate about these movies now, well, hate's too strong a word, but something I dislike, it's a trend I see more and more in movies now, is like, we need to make it like Stranger Things. And I'm like, no, you don't.
No,
it doesn't need to be. Yeah, because like there's that shot in the new Child's Play where it's clearly just trying to be a Stranger Things shot of the 4 kids. They all kind of look like characters from Stranger Things, suiting up to fight evil, but nothing happens.
Man, all these motherfuckers are all just trying to copy each other, man. I'm sorry. It's just
no, but you're absolutely right. They are.
There's good copying and bad copying, I think. I remember I was watching this documentary about Larry Cohen, the guy who did It's Alive and all those crazy, cult horror films. And Fred Williamson was talking about him and how he would Larry Cohen would jump in and shoot a scene somewhere and then get away because he didn't have a permit. And I think this is true of all.
That's called guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah, and writing, directing, it doesn't matter. Fred Williamson says to be a good artist, you have to be a good thief.
Yeah.
And
kind of do.
There's that, But don't be a bad thief. Don't be a lazy thief.
Mm-hmm.
Have some ingenuity, man.
Man, it's like all these people, maybe they have some producer in their ear or someone in their ear be like, you know what we should do? Stranger Things is really popular. We should have some 4 kids there. I have 80s references. So stupid. But
there are reasons for that, right?
Well, to follow the trend. I mean, you're either setting trends or you're following trends.
Play movie that work. There are parts in that remake that I thought worked pretty well. The spoil part of it, but when he kills the cat,
Yeah.
And then later, the kid is in his room, and he sees Chucky in the corner staring at him. And because it's a robot, it's playing the audio of the cat dying over and over and over again. And I'm
Okay.
like,
That's cool.
that
Yeah.
creepy scene. So don't bother with the Stranger Things stuff. You keep doing stuff like that, and you have my money. You know, like I'm happy with this. Come on, man.
I mean,
But you understand that these companies are run by MBAs now. They're not run by creatives, which means
they're run by Steve Mnuchin.
MBAs are looking for a formula. They're looking for a step-by-step guide to making money. So they are followers. They're not originators.
I mean, it makes me glad.
By their very nature.
It makes me glad that there are, you see books and movies still coming out, especially in the horror genre, that are still trying to be inventive.
Right.
And
That's good.
when they are stealing stuff, they're being, like the documentary said, they're being good thieves. They're picking their battles, they're picking their spots. Like that book, The Ritual. Did you all read that?
The Ritual. Wait.
It's about these 4 friends who go camping and hiking in the woods of Sweden.
Oh, I watched. Okay, no, I haven't read it, but I watched it on Netflix, and they see the crazy deer monster looking thing, right?
Yeah, the adaptation was actually pretty good as well. But that's obviously cribbing things from Deliverance. There was a heavy Deliverance vibe.
Oh yeah, there was.
But that's okay. But that's okay. Steal some stuff from Deliverance. But don't forget to tell
it was like Deliverance if there was like the trailer park people in there. I mean, those guys were hilarious. They were hilarious, and they're like getting into trouble, and they didn't know what was going on, and they were talking shit. But it was a good film. I don't know about the book, but I definitely enjoyed the film. That was cool.
They're both good. I think everyone should check them out.
I'll check out the book. One thing I want to say about Chucky, the remake, is I do like how they use how the house, like houses are connected now with your online device. It's connected with your Wi-Fi, so you can do everything. And Chucky could tap into that. Okay, that's smart. That makes sense. Okay. And then what they want him to look more plasticky, okay, that's fine too. Make him look like a toy. But
But
it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really compare to the original, though. It doesn't really have the horror of the original. It doesn't really have, because they're trying to be like everybody else at the same time.
To be fair, the original is ridiculous that this street thug knows voodoo.
Well, we just don't really think too much about that.
No, why not?
With horror films and other films too, sometimes you have to shut the logic off, and that's not so bad.
Yeah. Well, what was it? What was it in the new Chucky? The toy maker put his soul into the robot or something, right?
Or he tampered with the code, like he put in a virus.
That's right. That's right.
Well, to selfishly go back to my story.
Put a virus.
Don't question the things that happen in it. It's just a weird story, and I'm going to tell you a weird story now. So let's go on
get on with it.
Yeah. And your story flowed well like that. Like I said, if I read on the first page what the monster was going to be, I'd be like, oh, I don't really know, but it guided me through it. I was like, oh, okay, I'm believing this. Like, because it's like,
you don't waste time with it either. Because to spoil part of it, no one in the story is given a proper name because we don't need to know that.
You're right. You're right. And I was actually trying to think of some books or films that it really compares to. I was gonna say Christine because it's a killer car and that's kind of stupid, but not even that, because that's kind of cool. Okay, you see a killer car, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I would say maybe the closest I could think of
The haunted toilet.
is
The haunted toilet.
there's a story by Lansdale that's very short story as well. I think it's like 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah.
And hold on, I got the book that it's in. Let me find it here. It has a very long title for such a short story. Let me look it up here. It is called Down by the Sea Near the Great Big Rock. And it's just a simple story of a family that goes camping. And it just... And I used
Now,
to be...
why do I think there's more to it than that?
The rock kills him.
Well, you're not wrong. What have we got for him today, Johnny? Well, we have a blood-curdling thing. But, like, I used to be a prose editor in college for our literary magazine.
Right.
And I just remember I was going over some prose stuff, and there was a story in there that was just... And it was a good story, but it wasn't a particularly, like, crazy story. But I accepted it for publication because it was like, this author is a real kind of workman. They come in, they tell you a story with an A, B, C, beginning, middle, end, done. I'll leave.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you read a story like that, you get the sense that this is something special, because even if the story isn't too outlandish, you're just like, you're in the hands of a professional here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Relax. We're professionals.
Mm-hmm. This story might be obscene.
To go back to Mr. Wolf.
This story
To go
might
back
be
to
weird.
Mr. Wolf. My job isn't to say please. It's for you to read, to do what I do what I say, and no.
That's right. That's right.
I think it is. I always do like to tell people, yes, my family's last name is Wolf, and my father's side of the family, we are from the Transylvania mountains. So, that always works out well.
That's cool. That's cool. Hey, but one thing I didn't even ask you yet is why horror? Like, why write horror?
I think kind of. I mean, it's funny. I just mentioned my family, but like,
My family. That's reason.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Like,
it's okay. We
my
can have a
mom
therapy
and dad,
session here. I will listen to you.
Okay, let me lay back on my couch. But like, my mom and dad could not agree on a lot, hence why, we ended up moving across the country. But one thing that they always instilled in both me and my brother was a love of books, a love of movies. And, they both kind of gravitated towards the weird stuff. Like I said, the first movie I can remember seeing was Alien. And I remember I walked out into the living room, 3 years old or so, and my mom's watching her favorite movie, Alien. And it's a particularly violent part. And she sees me watching it, and instead of like rushing to turn it off, she stops and asks me, "Did you want to watch this?" And I'm kind of like wide-eyed, I'm sure, looking at this crazy-looking creature. And my answer is yes. And so, and I had a similar experience. I think I was in elementary school. My dad, Johnny, calls me downstairs because he wants me to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre with him, because we live out in a farmhouse in the country, and he was scared to watch it by himself. And
I'm sorry.
So I'm going to have my little boy sit with me because I'm scared. That'll make it better.
and I found out later that my grandpa on my mom's side did something very similar. He would wake up mom and my aunts and uncles to watch the old Universal monster movies on
I
TV.
thought you meant the chainsaw thing.
Oh.
Because he was to watch him by himself. And so I think my family has always gravitated that way. So it just made sense but it was just instilled in me in a young age that this is fun to read. It can be good. I mean, I remember in second grade or so, my dad gave me an illustrated collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories, because I'm sure he was thinking, if you're going to read horror, read the best. Get the best stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Just like drugs.
and we took a lot of car trips. We'd always drive out to Oregon to visit my mom, and it was my dad, my brother, and me, and I was usually left alone in the back of the car to just do whatever. And it was always a stack of books, and it was always and they had to be entertaining, to keep my mind sane while we're driving through bumfuck Nebraska or something.
Right.
No offense to Nebraska, but so they were like those Bruce Coville collections, or they would be. I clearly remember reading all of Stephen King's Nightmares and Dreamscapes, and that book still has a very special place in my heart, just because I associate it with this long trip. And I remember when I got out here to see my mom, she saw that I had read it. So she then immediately handed me Salem's Lot. And then she handed me a book called Harvest Home by Thomas Tyron. Have you guys read that?
I have not.
Nope.
When I went and watched Midsummer, my only thought after the movie was over was Ari Aster owes the Thomas Tyron estate some money, because as that movie was well made, a lot of it was so it's that kind of like folk horror, slow burn. We're building towards something very scary. And I think my mom did that on purpose, because Salem's Lot, as classic King, I'm going to build you a world here as it is, it gets started really quickly. It doesn't waste any time. And Harvest Home takes its time telling its story. Mm-hmm. And so I think I really do just have to say, why horror? It's because my parents picked really good horror for me to read. And I just went, I like this. I want to do that. I want to tell these kinds of stories.
Now, you seem to have a deep appreciation for horror, especially horror literature and horror movies. But when it comes to horror literature, is it? I mean, do you find it that readership is dying, or not too many people are reading books anymore? I mean, you work at a library. I mean,
it's funny. I think people are still reading a lot. I don't think, to get on my soapbox, but I don't think we have a problem with literacy nowadays. I think we have a problem with retention. Like, if someone, reads Harvest Home, they'll tell me they read Harvest Home. But then if I was to go, okay, can you tell me what it was about? They could maybe only surface level say, that's about a family who moves to a small town in the country and bad things happen. Yeah, but what does it mean? So I would say,
there's no critic. They don't read it critically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to be college educated to do that. When we lived in Indiana, my dad.
These days you do.
Well, like my brother, we were living in Indiana. We lived in this old farmhouse with my great uncle, who was, alive during the Depression and stuff. But he could pick things apart when he read them and talk about them. And I know he didn't go to college,
he didn't have
but he was
TV either.
Yeah, so he could absorb it. No, I do think
it was more of a thing. It was more culturally. It was more of a thing. In the Depression, especially, to read. I mean, your entertainment options were quite limited. There was not even everybody had radio yet.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that is the culprit, as much as I hate to, jump on the, it's ruining our society. But, I mean, I guess long story short to this is, I think people are reading less, but I don't see that as a descending curve. I think we're coming back. I think more people are starting to read more, because at my job, I always find myself helping a lot of young readers find stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I was helping someone who was there with their mom, and their mom specifically said, like, she wants to read, their kid wants to read Gary stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm pointing out this, I'm pointing out that, and the parent keeps shooting down some of this. So I eventually just when this
You should
patron
send the
was
mom
alone,
somewhere else.
that's kind of what I did. When the patron was alone, the student, I'm like, with your library card, you can check out whatever you want. You don't need permission.
Right.
And so I sent them home because they still weren't quite sure about horror, but I sent them home with a copy of Mortal Engines, which has these characters called stalkers, which are these like zombie robot things that will not stop until they fulfill their mission. And I'm like, why don't you start here and then we'll move on from there.
Yeah. Okay. So that's cool. You get them into something they would like to read, and that will keep them going. That's a good job.
Well, that's what happened with me. Yeah, I really do love my job.
That's important, man. Because let me tell you, like I said this before, when I was younger, man, when I was like 8, I wasn't reading shit. I was playing fucking Nintendo. I was playing Nintendo, watching stuff. I couldn't care
So
less.
much has changed.
Yeah, so much has changed. Like, and then
I was that kid who I got put into lockers. I really did. Like, I was that nerd in school. I got put into lockers occasionally.
Oh.
Sorry.
I was pretty nerdy, but I didn't get put into lockers. But I mean, I saw other kids get put into lockers. I was like, oh, well, I'm not him. Sorry.
The worst thing that I remember was I'd always have my face in a book, and surprisingly, it was actually worse in elementary school because the older kids. There was one, I forget his name, but like his favorite thing to do was to smack the back of the book really hard, so it would go up into my face. That was his favorite pastime.
Damn. Okay.
Children.
All right.
Children are horrible to each other.
They are.
They just are. They really are.
But my point of bringing that up is that it did change later on. When all it took was just a book that got my interest. At that time, I think it was I don't remember. I think it was a Goosebumps book. Actually, I think it was like Terror Tower or whatever, which one it was called. That one.
Yeah, and the night.
Was this after you got married?
Yeah, SK, it was last year. SK, I read my first book.
By the way, your reading skills have really improved since I've met you.
It was an easy reader version too. Okay.
I still doesn't do the English right, does I?
No, not quite at all.
No, I think that going back, I've tried to find some of the books that I used to read as a kid, and that is one thing I do think is different nowadays. Books when I was a kid were a lot darker, especially for horror and sci-fi. I think there's this book by William Sleater called The Beasties, which has like going back and rereading it, I'm like, holy Christ, this has like body horror in it, and this was marketed to like 4th and 5th graders. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Jesus, Grimm's fairy tales, for God's sakes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a different
That's
age.
nasty shit. That's dark shit, all of it.
This might actually be the answer to your question, why horror? I think I can pinpoint it. Y'all had that podcast a couple days ago about the urban legends, and you talked about Bunny.
And the Bunny Man.
My mom would always tell me and my brother this story about Bandage Man. Y'all ever hear about that urban legend?
Bondage Man or Bandage Man?
Bandage, like what you wrap your wounds in.
Not a mummy?
No, but kind of looked like one. But my mom would always make a big production of it. Like, we would like build a blanket for it, and it'd be dark, and she'd tell us about like it happened in like on like the Oregon coast near a logging town, and apparently there was this big accident, and most of the men in town were employed by this logging operation. So most of the men in the town are either dead right on the spot or grievously injured. The town rushes to their help, to their aid, but there's too many of them. So the doctor needs to take them to the nearest big hospital, and he can't take them all. So he and the townspeople identify which ones they know they can save, load them up, and he wraps the others' wounds as much as they can, all these injured loggers, and pretty much says, just try not to die, we'll be back. They rush off, then they rush back, and yes, most of the men have died. Except for this one who was he was known, and my mom never told us his name, like he was kept nameless, like he was a stranger. But he was this big logger who was like kind of a Paul Bunyan type.
Okay.
But he had been injured more than anybody. And so he had been covered head to foot in bandages. And he's gone. And not like, oh, maybe an animal came and dragged him off. He's just gone. And then weeks go by, the town's kind of recovered, and people start to find weird things, like they hear noises in the forest, or they find fires out there, like somebody's camping out there.
Oh, he started
or
fires.
People sleep.
Nice.
And then like these people sleeping on the porches would wake up and there'd be bits of bandage on the screen door. And then eventually pets start to go missing, some of them found eaten. And then, as my mom always told the story, and then kids started to disappear.
Oh,
and so Bandage Man lurking out there in the woods.
He's working for Epstein.
And
yeah.
And this was the story that was told to me. And this is what separates me from my brother. I was probably listening to this wide-eyed and open-mouthed, like thinking of this killer logger with his, fucked up face. And my brother just went, well, after a while, wouldn't he just be like Scab Man?
Right.
And it's like, if you need to know the difference between me and my brother, there it is. He's the consummate reporter, just the facts, man.
Yeah, just the facts.
But we were raised with spooky stories like that.
I think I want your mom on the show.
Yeah, she'd be great.
She would be. She likes him too. Although it's funny, the one horror movie she refuses to watch again is Halloween. It scares her too much.
Oh, really? That's my favorite.
Well,
maybe we can watch it together. I mean, not losing your mom or anything. I'm just saying.
If you ever had her on here, she'd have to explain to you the circumstances in which she watched it. It was like in Portland, and it was a late afternoon show. So by the time like the movie's getting over, and she wants to leave because it's so scary, it's dark out, so she doesn't want to leave because she has to walk home in the dark. Mm-hmm. It was sort of a perfect storm of, oh shit, I shouldn't have watched this movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, man, I think it's that time.
Cool.
Yeah. We got to get her on the show, though. Let's see if we can work on getting your mom on the show. We could talk about horror, talk about maybe we can sneak her to watch some Halloween. I don't know. Make that happen.
I think maybe like, oh, we're going to watch Alien.
Yeah.
Your son mentioned watch, and then just turn it, and all of a sudden,
right?
I guarantee she would probably give me a look and then storm out of the room. But that's her.
And she'll hate me forever. But man, dude, I admire how much love you have for reading and for horror, for literature and horror. That's great, man. We need more people like you. And I say that before because last time was at a convention, at a table. It was like people would come up, right, and be like, "Oh, I like horror, but I don't read. It's like, okay, well then, what the fuck?
I find that baffling. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. Where it's like when people tell me they don't read, I'm like, I don't understand you, because it's the best legal drug out there. Because I stare at pieces of cut up tree with ink on them, and I hallucinate for hours. Like, what more do you want?
Right. That's cool though. I like that. The reading can't take you far like that.
I think there's a book for everybody. If you find the right book or the right short story, even that you find the right one for that person who says I don't read, and then all of a sudden they're reading. I used to work at a bookstore before I worked at a library, and so I would get a lot of parents coming up saying my kid doesn't like to read, and my first question was always, well, do you read? Because they're modeling your behavior, dude. But I would always steer them towards short stories because I'm like, you can just cherry pick. If you don't like the story, move on.
That's right.
Find
That's a good thing about anthologies. You get one, and there's going to be a story in there that you like. You might not like all of them, but there's maybe one or two. It's worth it.
Well, like the anthology you're doing with the monsters, we all have a favorite monster.
Right.
Like when on your site where it shows that sketch of, is that like a
that is the
test
sketch of the cover. It's being inked and colored right now.
I can't.
Now, Monster Party has a bunch of monsters, man. We have Wendigos.
I was going to say, I saw that deer thing on the front. I'm like, is that a Wendigo? That's
Wendigo,
my favorite. Like
Wendigo. I can't say it. A Wendigo. We have Yetis. Have a crazy whatever your monster is. Not going to say what it is.
What the hell I'm bringing to this party?
We even have a monster hospital.
Like a monster mash or drinks. Like maybe my monster would be in the corner, just kind of, slurping a drink by themselves. No one quite knows what to make of the poor guy.
I mean, like, there's a story in there like a monster hospital. It's literally like all the monsters, famous ones, other ones, just they got beaten up. They're like in there trying to get recovered for various things.
I'm writing a story now, kind of like that. Ah, shit.
Oh, look at that! Look at that. Well, man, dude, I enjoyed you so much on the show. We've got to invite you again to talk more about horror, especially B-movie monsters. We covered it a little bit, but as we do on the show, sometimes something else comes up and just sort of just go along with it.
You know what? If you want to review me about B-movie monsters and you want to get my mom involved, ask us sometime after Thanksgiving because we will have digested many stupid monsters along with turkey. So.
Oh, and wait, have you ever seen Things Killing?
Oh, is that with the killer turkey?
Yeah, that's the movie with the killer turkey.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's an experience.
Okay, stuff you, motherfucker.
Like that. Like the Grindhouse Thanksgiving. I'm like, if that had been a real movie like made in the 80s, I probably would have watched it.
Yeah.
A killer film. What more do you want?
Remember when you go to Portland to wash afterwards, if you get any on you.
Oh yeah, it's like a strip club. Don't touch anything in here.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to get near Portland. I'm sorry. Well,
it's a nice city. You just got to find what part of it you like. That's all.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll take that advice.
I like the Washington part.
If anything, you got to at least go to Powell's and you got to check out the Gold Room because that's where they keep all the fantasy.
Okay, I'll do that.
That's all.
Powell's is legendary.
Okay.
And rightly so.
It was mentioned on X-Files.
Was it?
Yeah.
No shit. I got to go back and watch that now.
Yeah, I thought I've seen every X-Files episode. I don't remember that.
Well, why would you if you never heard of it before?
A lot of the episodes in the first season were they were like, we're going to Portland or we're going to Washington.
Yeah.
Because that's where they were shooting anyway. So just might as well shoot it for what it is.
Might as well. All right, Mr. Wolf. Thank you so much for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, if you made it this far, press the like button, share, and subscribe. Your help makes the channel grow, makes the show grow. Y'all take it easy.